So, hey everybody, this is another episode of my podcast. And so today's topic is co parenting. I never really thought I was going to make a video about this, but I decided that it's time to do so. And the reason why is because I don't know, it's become apparent to me that a lot of people, they're not familiar with co parenting situations. They don't even know what co parenting is, they don't even know what it entails. And so people tend to make a lot of assumptions about co parenting when you mention it to them, or be confused. And they also tend to make their own false judgments and assumptions on other people's lifestyles and choices simply because they don't have an understanding of what co-parenting is, what it involves, and why people even do it. And because it's not a really common thing yet, and I say yet because a lot of people won't understand it or get it. Now, the reason why I say it's not a common thing yet is because even though it's it's one of those things where you may have heard some celebrities mention they were co-parenting or something, and you're just like, oh, that's just some weird, silly stuff that celebrities do as alternative lifestyles, blah, blah, blah. You might have heard someone you know or know of mention co parenting, but you still probably just like, I don't know about that. You assume it's just some weird alternative lifestyle where people are choosing to just do whatever they want for the sake of the convenience. Um, I assume that a lot of people think it's an open relationship or some weird mess, and it absolutely is not. Now, let me tell you why it's going to start becoming more common. As this economy continues to snowball into a big ball of mess and inflation continues to rise and affect people's income and lifestyles, guess what? More and more people are going to start to realize that coming together and trying to make things work to the best of their advantage, their ability, and doing what it takes to survive, yeah, they're going to start to see the sensibilities of co-parenting. So it has to make sense. And a lot of people they compromise. And I had friends and family members that told me, just go get your own place. Go at least just get an apartment, this and that and other, and blah blah. And these are the same people who, by the way, end up, you know, I'm just gonna say I'm so glad I didn't follow their advice. I'm so glad I didn't follow their advice because if I had, I would have ended up in the same predicament as them, frustrated and feeling like it's a stretch and feeling like it's I didn't want to do what everybody else is doing. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like people have to be careful when it comes to listening to your girlfriends or your homeboys or your family members when they want to throw their suggestions and advice out there about what you should do. And it's normal for people to do that. And I'm always welcome to, you know, output from other people and feedback. However, when you know what your standards are, when you know what's right for you, you won't make these rash decisions and be like, well, I just need my own space and for the independence and, for my dating life. And it wouldn't have been worth it. It would have been worth it. Getting further into that, everybody was like, well, how are you going to meet other people and have a dating life and this and that other if you're still living under the same roof as your ex? Um, it's possible. It's very possible. And in fact, um, it actually has been a good way to weed out the wrong people. Uh, you know, I wouldn't dare in today's time justify getting my own place so I can have a personal love life. Why? Because the crowd of people today out here, you guys in the singles world, they ain't it. They ain't it. People today have no standards. They have no values or morals. Everybody's just out here putting themselves in situationships. Nobody wants anything real or anything serious. Love, what's that? They act like they never heard of it. Nobody wants any commitment, and it seems like there's a gender war going on and so much ignorance, and a lot of people are so insecure that when you tell them, hey, you are single, divorced, and co-parenting, and you tell them your situation, as you start to get to know each other and then they think they want to come back to your place, they kind of get on this whole thing of, so you're still with your ex? No, I'm not still with my ex. We're co-parenting. Yes, we're still under the same roof, but there's no intimacy. We're not together. We're not committed. You know what I'm saying? We don't even sleep in the same room. We have our own rooms, our own space, our own privacy. We respect each other's privacy. You know what I'm saying? Um, we only do things on the occasion for our child. Like, we might like we took him to the beach, last year, right before school started, because we still try to allow our child to have some sense of security, you know what I'm saying, and family upbringing in some form, and to demonstrate that your parents don't have to hate each other just because they're not together. You know what I'm saying? Our child knows that we're not together. But I hate so much how people assume that there's no way you're not still involved with your ex-husband or your ex-wife. I hate how people assume that. Like, why do I still have to be intimately involved with that person? Why do I still have to have romantic feelings for that person? I even had somebody to accuse me of they still was like, yeah, your husband. And I'm not gonna lie, I got upset. I got upset. In fact, I get upset every single it's triggering every time somebody says your husband when they clearly know that I'm single and divorced. Because it's ignorance, and I mean the worst ignorance to me of any kind. It shows a lack of respect for other people's decisions in their personal life. It shows a lack of understanding. It shows how childish and immature people really are. Like, wow, if you can't fathom being cordial enough, being decent enough, being mature enough, and respectful enough to consider your child, and being able to still manage raising your child with the other parent without being at each other's throats, without some kind of war, and without going through all these changes, and without somehow sleeping together. That's just weird to me, that people, they can't wrap their brain around adulting. Like, people can do adulting when it comes to working their jobs and making their money and paying their bills, but you can't do adulting when it comes to managing to get along with the other parent of your child or children. Wow, that's the world we live in today. And one more reason why I would not consider getting a place of my own just to be dating and having a personal life, because it's a lot of that type of mentality and immaturity out here, to where I'm like, I don't even want to consider dating somebody who can't fathom getting along with the other parent. Now, when it comes to co-parenting, everybody doesn't do the under the same roof type of arrangement. You have some, and we're actually a rare breed. We exist, but we're a rare breed, those who can co-parent under the same roof, but we do exist. Okay. A lot of other co-parents, they're actually, they live separately apart, and they claim, the title of co-parenting because they are, allowing themselves to be peaceful with each other through their hurt and their disappointment and their disagreements, and they agree to take on an equal amount of the parenting, which I respect a lot, because a lot of times when couples separate or divorce, or they're no longer together, usually one parent, usually the mother, may have the child or the children full time, and the father or the other parent, whoever, may see the child 2-3 days out the week, and they may not help with being more involved with all the other things that the main custodial parent does. With co-parenting, they try to divide that up so that they're both more involved. They try to get along for the sake of, so when they do see each other around holidays, or for pickups or whatever's going on, that the children cannot uh, be disturbed and have peace with whatever's going on, and still have both of their parents in their lives. To me, that just seems like regular adults doing what they should do when they part ways and they have kids. To me, I don't, it's not as much co-parenting as much as it is adulting, like real adulting. However, I'm not going to take that title from them, because that's what they feel co-parenting is. To me, co-parenting has always been, yo, we still, we really still are um, doing what we have to do to raise a child, and that includes being under the same roof, even though we're not in each other's space. But each to their own, and I have respect for everybody's co-parenting situation. It's just that being under the same roof is not as common, because a lot of people, they do not have it in them to do it. They don't have the patience. They don't have the discipline or the tolerance or the compassion or the understanding towards one another, or being able to care about everybody rather than just their own personal feelings. And it's not judgment, it's just this is what it is and this is what it takes. Um, we were married, and we ended up separating. However, I wanted to actually move and get my own place and take our child with us, and then just arrange for him to see our child whenever he was available or whatever. However, at the time, he, the father of my child was working so much, so much. My ex-husband was working so much that he honestly sat down with me and he said, "Listen, let's just stick this out and just do whatever we can." He said, "At least just let's just stay in the same house, okay?" Because he said, "There's no way I'm going to be able to manage to see you uh, to pick up our child or and spend time with him or have him with me when I can't even manage to, um, have a break or lunch or any downtime." He was working his full time job and he had a side job, which pretty much, he worked that job so much he might as well had two full time jobs. I was like, okay, we'll just be separated. We'll still live together, but we'll be separated. And so we were separated for probably a year and a half to 2 years before I finally said, enough. Enough is enough. I want an actual divorce. And by that time, and when I tell you guys that um I have a lot of patience. I have a lot of patience. And I'm one of those people, I don't run at the first sign of trouble. I really try to work things out and stick things out. I really try to uh, you know, do what I can. You know what I'm saying? And so if I call it quits and say enough is enough, you better believe enough is enough. And so I'm not going to get into the details about it because I don't feel like I need to put all of that out there. But let's just say the deal breakers were definitely deal breakers for me. And so I was like, yeah, I don't feel like I deserve to still be tied in, legally or marriage wise to someone whom um the certain issues were prevalent. I just didn't feel like it was a good thing for me. I wasn't comfortable with it anymore. I wasn't, I just was not, no, you know what I'm saying? I felt like, one of those situations where you see a burning building and you're like you have to make that decision. Are you going to jump or are you going to just burn with that building? You know what I'm saying? No, I was not about the, no. So yeah, I had to do what I had to do. Now, upon this process, um, and mind you, with us having been separated prior, it wasn't a major ordeal at that point because we had already been sleeping in separate rooms. We have our own individual rooms. Our child has his room, my ex husband has his room, and I have my room, you know? And so it wasn't some major ordeal or transition. Now, let me get into this, okay? I got at least 6 things that I wrote down on my list so that I don't forget to mention these things. So, one of the very first reasons why me and the father of my child considered co-parenting is because of the financial reasons, okay? The economy had started to inflate, and we're looking at things financially, and we're looking at what the expectations come with a divorce. Now, in the state that we live in, you know, it's standard that one of the you know one of the spouses they're divorcing or whatever, if you can decide to either sell the home and divide the equity and whatnot, and then go get your own places and then work out the child custody, any assets, split that or whatever. Um, Work out the child support, that kind of thing. No alimony. But when it comes down to um, situations like where one may want to keep the home and then, and the other move out, you have to refinance and, so you can pay the other person their share of the equity and whatnot. And by this time, everything just seemed to be a bit much. Now, mind you, we had a pretty good, and we still do. We have a really good interest rate on the mortgage. So much so that by the time We got to the point where we would consider refinancing the home, for one to get their share of the equity out. It was like, yeah, these rates are way much higher, and they still are. So it didn't make any sense. And looking at the way the economy is going, let's unless one of us strike it rich, or um, gets promoted or something like that, or business venture, just blows up massively and it pays out exponentially really, really, really well. It's one of those things where you kind of feel stuck. It is what it is. Now, the bigger aspect of this is, could either one of us still move? Yeah, we could, but it would put a financial strain on us. It literally would. It would put a financial strain on us because the way the rent looks now, the rent is as much or more than a mortgage, and it does not make sense. The very reason we got this house was because we were tired of paying rent. Why? Because when you pay rent, that money leaves you and it never returns back. You never see that money again. You pay it to somebody else, making them rich, but you never see that money again. And when you work really hard for your money, who wants to work so hard for your money and then you give it away, you never see it again? And when I think about how much money was paid for rent over the years, it's maddening. I could have owned two houses. You understand? I could have owned and paid off two houses. So, for me, it's a no. I refuse to rent ever again. Not a house, not an apartment, nothing. And I think he kind of feels the same way. For the house that I would actually want to buy, if I were the one to move out, uh, I want a house that have it meets certain standards. You know what I'm saying? Like I have certain goals and standards in mind for what type of home that I want to buy next. I don't want to just settle for just anything just because. And in today's market, especially where we live, I would be settling for far less because our home right now is worth twice as much as it was when we bought it, years back. So, and it really wasn't even that long ago. We buy this house. We didn't buy this house that long ago. You know what I'm saying? It's been under 10 years, that we bought this house. Um, and within a matter of only a few years, literally, the mortgage rate shot like, and not the mortgage rate, our mortgage is standard, it's not one of those variable ones, but the housing prices in the area, oh my gosh, in the whole city and metro Atlanta, areas or whatever, the housing prices are off the chain. And I'm hearing all over the country, really. However, if I were to consider moving back to my hometown, I definitely could snatch up a house, probably even two or three, because the housing prices there are different, for where I'm actually originally from, up north. So, but I'm not willing to move back up there. Why? I mean, I'm here for a reason. I like the weather down south. I find it to be beautiful down here. You know what I'm saying? I like the people, and I feel like my child is getting a really good education because they're in one of the best school systems in the country. So, once again, I don't see a reason to uproot from some place that I like, just to get a cheaper cost of living, when I could just maybe just bear it out a little bit longer and work towards what I really want. So when I make my move, I can do so comfortably and knowing that I didn't have to compromise. Okay, so financially, we got that out the way, right? We got that out the way. Moving further on, yeah, this is definitely for the security of our child. When we were having major problems and separated, our child was basically a toddler. By the time divorce rolled in, our child was at least 6 years old. That's still quite young. So for us, it just was kind of like, is it really fair to our child to just like thrust him into this whole new situation? At that point, we had moved at least three different times. And that in itself, to me, parents don't understand when you move a lot, or even if you take, like when I was a kid, my mom put us in so many different schools. She meant well. She was trying to find the best school for us, the best fit. However, she didn't understand the impact when you keep uprooting your kids and putting somewhere new, uprooting your kids, putting somewhere new. It's a very similar thing when you move a lot as well. And so to me, it was like, do we really want to put our kid through all of this because um, of our own issues? You know what I'm saying? Like, at least temporarily, we could try to wing this out in terms of allowing our child to feel like he's still in the same safety zone, the same comfort zone for a while longer, while we also work out our financial situation. And so it makes sense for us. Now, of course, we let our child know, hey, we're not together anymore. And of course, our child was aware because our child had seen us argue and fight and go through all those things. And we didn't want to keep putting our child through that either. That's something even that our child expressed us, that they didn't like to see us argue and fight. So, you know, it wasn't above us to, you know, think outside of ourselves and do what's right for our child and at least allow them peace and allow them to still have both of their parents and not be strained from seeing one of them because the other one is working so much and this and the other. Co-parenting is not necessarily a forever situation. That's another thing that people may not be aware of. It's not necessarily a forever situation. It can definitely be temporary. And for us, this our intentions is for it to be temporary. No reconciliation, just temporary. So moving down the list, safety. Now that was big for me. For me, safety was a big thing. Um, I've had my situations, and if you go look at one of my other videos on my channel, I have a video about somebody literally stalking me. You know what I'm saying? And this wouldn't be the first time. There's been numerous occasions where somebody was stalking, and I don't know if it's just the area, the neighborhood, or it's the times. I don't know. But on more than one occasion, there's been somebody trying to stalk. Even when going to stores, shopping with my child, I noticed from when they were a baby all the way up to at least it doesn't happen as often anymore now that my child is getting older, because even though he's 8, he's looking much taller and older for his age. So we've gotten less issues with people trying to shop, as they call it. And if you're familiar with human trafficking, when you are a parent, man or woman, be aware there are people out here who try to traffic and kidnap children. And if you are a single mother, you're at a much higher risk than a father is for someone to try to target you and your child for trafficking, kidnapping, or whatever. And the city that I live in, it's a high incidence of it. I've actually encountered, when my child was very young, people trying to stalk us for trafficking. And I had a lady to warn me right then and there in the store, because she had a change of heart that, hey, look out because this is going on and whatnot. And it was very scary, very, very scary. But at the same time, I'm very prayerful. My family's prayerful. And I was able to dodge that situation. However, that whole situation made me more aware. This lady made me far more aware. And I started to begin to recognize incidents when people were shopping, as they call it, when they see a young woman and her child. And it's very unsettling once you recognize the signs, and you realize how prevalent, how often people are out here shopping around to, traffic or kidnap other people and their children. So, I have my child in some martial arts and whatnot. And I've, taken some time and some classes to learn some martial arts. And, I do carry, because I don't play that. And, we have cameras and whatnot. But I can tell you there has been an incident where I'm glad that we still have, a man present around the home. Why? Because this one guy that liked me, there's a particular store I would pick my groceries up from, and this person worked there. And for like a whole year or so, this person they would see me when I come, pick up my groceries. They would always be friendly and this and that other. Could I tell they like me? Yeah. I like them, but it was just certain things that just didn't match up. And so, I just kept it friendly. However, they ended up doing something very weird and peculiar. Apparently, I think they had access to customers' personal information, like their address, phone number, whatnot, and things like that. And they did a pop up at my home with like some firecrackers or fireworks or whatever, and shot them off in front of our home. And they didn't realize that my child's father, my ex, was here at all, and he just happened to be right there in the front of the house and catch them doing it. I happened to look out the window because I heard the firecrackers or whatever, the fireworks go off or whatever, and we both were like, what the heck? And they sped off. They sped off the moment they realized, oh, they've been caught, and that there's a man right there present in front of the house that's pissed off and gonna come and get them if they don't get up out of there. And so, can you imagine how much more stalking that could have occurred from that one particular individual if they weren't aware or didn't become aware? They had become aware, hey, there's somebody around here that's not going to allow you to act crazy or this and that and other. And so that was just weird. I never saw that coming, you know what I'm saying? But my ex has even had somebody to stalk him. oddly enough. And that person never did again either because I saw them. So in some sense, we kind of we kind of offer each other some kind of presence protection that I think people don't realize is there when there's another person around. Could this be possible with a roommate? Yes and no. A roommate may not care, or a roommate might have had the same response. I don't know. But my ex is very much, he's a former police officer. So from his, where his country. And so, he doesn't play that. He's very much about security and this and that and other and whatnot. I don't think I could ever get that out of a actual like roommate with a stranger. You know what I'm saying? Heck, that roommate stranger might even be crazy. You never know. So I had a friend who and early in her marriage, they only had like one child right at that time, and her husband would work a lot. He'd work a lot. He'd work at night shifts. And one night, and thank God one night she was not there at home. She decided to visit her mother. She decided to visit her mother and spend the night at her house with her and her child. And because she just didn't want to be home alone with the baby by herself, her child. And she comes back the next day, her and her husband, because her husband picked her up from her mom's house, and for them to find that somebody had broken into their apartment, and it's because this friend, she said there were a couple of guys who in the area in her apartment complex, they liked her. However, they must have been watching her. Now it could have been anybody, but the one thing I know is um, but whether people realize it or not, there's a lot of things that go on where people they're watching you. Even when there's two parents there, people could be watching you. I've heard of news stories where both parents are there and they're just getting back from grocery shopping, and somebody goes to try to snatch up their kid. So imagine just one parent. You know what I'm saying? But like, she lucked up. She was blessed. She was not there that evening. However, we believe that they were there to get her and her child. And so once again, when you realize what's possible or what's really going on, you do what is best for your safety and your child or children's safety. That matters. So nothing's guaranteed. We have a dog as well. Nothing's guaranteed, but the more safety precautions you have up, the more safety measures you have going on, the better off you are. And personally, in today's time when kidnapping and trafficking is a real issue, especially in certain cities, especially the one that I live in, I'm not wasting any time playing games, because I don't think my safety and the safety of my child is worth, like I said, this whole idea of, oh yeah, I'm doing me, and I want to be able to have completely my own space where I can do what? Bring back men to sleep with me. And these could be the same men that could want to do me harm, because unfortunately in today's time, I've heard too many stories. We all hear too many news stories of, either men doing crazy stuff and, doing harm to women, or you even hear women doing crazy stuff. So in today's time, it's like, why risk safety, just to be around strangers that you don't know if you can trust them or not, versus the one you do know. I know my child's father. I trust him. You know what I'm saying? I know he has to do no weird stuff. Now, not wanting to struggle compromise. I think I already went over that. I already went over that. I'm not about that struggle life. I'm not about compromise over something that is not to my standard. I'd rather go out prepared. Okay. And they're the same way. I have standards. Um, we both get to see our kid. Went over that. We don't have to worry about schedule conflicts. There definitely would have been a schedule conflict. Um, and finally, it's temporary. I mentioned that as well. Oh, gotta go in a minute. Gotta go in a minute. But it's temporary. It's not a permanent thing. Now, the final thing I want to throw out there why I like the whole co-parenting thing is I'm not as like I'm not. If I'll be honest, if I was living, if I had my own place and I wasn't sharing a place, I'd be far more likely vulnerable to this whole idea of, yeah, you meet somebody, you like them, you're dating for a while, and then you think, they want you, they want to come back to your place. You know what I'm saying? Or, you might get tempted to want to bring them back to your place. I'm honestly in a place of, I've been celibate for a while. I'm not perfect. So I have had moments where I've broken the celibacy, but for the most part, I've been pretty celibate for quite a long time, on and off. And it's for a good reason. There's a whole, like I said, like a whole lot of nothing out there. You have a lot of people out here, they literally just want to sleep with you and have a good time, and that's it. And they will literally put you in a situationship. You also have out here what they call hobosexuals, um, men and women who literally will try to, use intimacy and getting close to you as a way to have an option for a place to stay. So they'll want to, get to know you, date you, and be with you. And then eventually they want to ask you to move in and whatnot. And when you are in a situation like co parenting under the same roof, you're not likely to say, yeah, sure. No, you're more likely to think about that and be like, yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. You know what I'm saying? Um, but either way it go, even if I had my own place, I still would have the same standards, but there's less vulnerability to do so. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like a safeguard. Like I'm not likely to we've agreed to not bring anybody back to the house. Why? Because we don't want to introduce our personal lives to each other. We also don't want our child to be meeting strangers and all this other stuff. We would have the same standards in terms of if we were living separately. No, I would not bring anybody back to my home because I have a young child, and that's a safety thing. And I wouldn't want them to be meeting my child if I don't feel like they're going to be somebody who is actually going to, uh, become a real part of my life. Meaning they're there to commit. They're there to actually be there with me. You know what I'm saying? Like we actually be together. Whether we, become life partners or we get engaged and married or whatever. Um, or at least know that they're going to be a long term partner, a long term, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I'm into men only, so I'm just saying. But like, and I've dated, and you know, they would want to like, oh, let me come back to your place, and they're like, no, I have a child. Like, I'm not going to introduce my child to you, and I don't even know if you're serious or not. I'm not about to introduce my child to people just coming in and out of my life. I don't think that's healthy. I really don't. And I think it's a poor example, especially for them to see of their mother or even of their own father. Like, and it's a safety thing. And a lot of times I would end up discovering, not all the time, but I would end up discovering that some of these guys didn't even really have their stuff together, or they didn't have their own place. They were sharing a place with somebody, or some kind of thing. And the more you get to see how messed up the economy is getting and how it's affecting people, you're going to start to see more of that as well. And so, um, now if I met somebody and we turn out to be a really good couple, we turn out to be it's real love, and we know we want to be together, um, we know we want to be together. We know we want to live together and we want to build our lives together. Would I move out then? And we get a place together, or I move in with them, and we figure out how who's going to pay what and this and that with the bills. Yeah, it would be no problem. However, I would have to see, yeah, this is where this is going, and it's a real thing. It can't just be a situation where I'm just putting myself out here, wasting money on rent, renting a place or buying a place that doesn't even meet my standards, just so I can say, yeah, I'm going to get out here and date a lot of people who don't even meet my standards, because it's a lot of people out here who they're not looking, they don't have values, or they're not looking for real love or anything. You got a lot of guys now, they're afraid of marriage. I get it. I get it. As a woman, I get it. And they'll say, well, marriage isn't fair to men, but how about marriage legally sometimes cannot be fair to anybody? Because the one thing I didn't like about being married when it comes to the legal aspect is when it comes time to divorce or whatever, part ways, you literally have to deal with a judge. You have to pay out all this money for a lawyer and whatnot, only for them to tell you how you have to, by according to the law, split and divide your assets and who's going to pay this and that and child support and alimony. And when I wanted a divorce, I just wanted a divorce. I was just like, I want out of this. I don't, like, I'm like, what's the quickest way out of this? And, so, and some of you are probably wondering, well, how did we manage this? Well, my lawyer said, well, go the standard way, because she said we've had couples to go the other way where they were like you, doing the co-parenting under the same roof and whatnot, and some that were co-parenting not under the same roof. And she said it took their divorces so much longer to actually get signed off on by a judge, because most judges, they don't have a large concept for co-parenting, and it's not as common, so they don't really have a lot of confidence that it would work out, and they don't want to feel like they're irresponsible signing off on something like that. So they recommend a standard type of divorce at least. And then once you have that divorce decree, it's up to you what you guys decide to do, but at least you have legal paperwork to fall back on if your co-parenting situation doesn't work out. And that's what I was told by the divorce lawyers legally. So we did everything standard, but we haven't needed to fall back on anything in that divorce decree, because we've been mature and responsible enough to where we've made things work out without having to, go through all of that, So um that's that's all I have to say about it at this point. But hey, if you meet somebody and they say they're co-parenting, don't assume they're still sleeping with the other parent. That's not true. Now, while I have heard of people doing that, everybody is not like that. Some of us really have a lot of self-discipline and a lot of self-respect. In my case, I have a lot of that, both self-respect and discipline. If I'm not in love with you, if I'm not actually with you, if I feel like that this part of my life with you is over with, that's cut off. That's cut off. There's no more intimacy. I don't have to do that with you. And I haven't. We haven't been intimate or anything like that for a very, 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 very long time. And that's definitely by choice. I mean, it's like people have to understand, you know, if they're dating you, why do they still need to sleep with the other parent? Why? Why do they need to do it? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense. They could easily date other people. What do you think we're dating for? We're dating for people date for different reasons. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking for something real. I'm looking for a companion, but something real, something solid. Would I be open to marriage again? Sure. Um, but at the very least, I want something real, a real relationship, a real relationship. None of this situation stuff, none of this, friends with benefits and one night stands. I'm not into none of that. I'm not into one night stands. I'm not into casual affairs. I'm not into situationships. I'm not into the friends with benefits, none of that stuff. So it's time for me to go. But you can comment, hit the like button. You can hit the dislike button if you want. Subscribe, check out my other videos. Like I said, I do have a video that I'm putting up with this one, and it's the Panama City trip where we co-parented. We did this trip for our kids so that we could take them to the beach to have fun right before school started. And this was last year. And I thought it would be cool to share that because I want people to see you can do these things. You can, it's possible. And it gives your kids good memories. It was the only thing that was difficult about that trip was how hot it was, how tired and rest broken we were because it was like a last minute trip. And you know and we were trying to like go and sightsee all these different things, and I don't have all of that in the video because when you're trying to enjoy a trip, you don't want to have your camera out every 2 seconds. You want to try to enjoy your trip, so you guys see basically just the most basic moments on there at the beach, and going checking out the shopping and stuff like that or whatever. But you also get some details about Panama City and see what it looks like to some degree. But anyway, let me end this. Peace, take care. Definitely comment, let me know what your experience is, if you have an experience with co-parenting, and if you don't, if you've dated anybody that co-parented, or if you were just like, if you found this video to be enlightening or informative or whatever you think. Just be nice, and peace.